How hard have you been working this year? In astrology, a full moon is a culmination moment when something comes to a head and something can be revealed by the light of the moon. And this week's full moon falls in Capricorn, the sign of ambition, discipline, long-term goals, and hard work. You will be able to review something that you have achieved through your hard work. On the opposite side of the chart is the sun, shining its light across to the moon. And the sun is in the sign of Cancer, the sign of private life, emotional security, and nurturing. Are you balancing private life with home life? Do your structures and disciplines allow you enough time for rest and emotion and intuition and flow? This moon is a chance to take stock of what you have been building, and with the incredible astrology of 2026, what you have been building this year could be leading to a future that is wonderfully expansive, visionary, pioneering, albeit with some birthing pains. And this is over the long term. This moon is practical and realistic and stoic. It gives you a moment to pause and take stock in the midst of the many new developments that are happening astrologically and in your life, those big changes to life that are happening. Okay, so in this video, we're going to look at what the full moon in Capricorn means, its timing in terms of those incredibly rare outer planet transits that are going on, and do an all signs breakdown so that you know what parts of your life this moon will be affecting. Hello everybody and welcome to this video. My name is Fiona of Sun and Moon Calendar. I make calendars like these ones for Australia and New Zealand, maybe one day for the rest of the world. I have been studying astrology for over 10 years. I'm based in New Zealand, but this astrology is for the whole world. The full moon in the sign of Capricorn will be affecting us everywhere. You can look up and see it and feel the energy of it, even though it's a micro moon. It's not as big as some of the supermoons that we had earlier in the year. This full moon is stoic and practical and realistic, and it is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is square to the moon. So there's some tension there with the need to be disciplined and stoic. And I would normally say that when we have a Capricorn full moon, we will not be too imaginative. We will be very grounded and not visionary and not imaginative too much. And that is the case. But the full moon is also square to Neptune, so there will be a little bit of that coming into play and perhaps envisioning your future and accepting the hard work and pragmatism that you need to face up to now could help with that. So before I get into the full moon, I'm going to go into the transits of the week one by one that are coming up on the week beginning the 29th of June moving forward. And you can jump ahead to any part of the video. So you can jump ahead to the section about the details of the full moon, the chart of the full moon, and then the sign by sign breakdown. Then if you want to stick around at the end of the video, I'm going to do a 5-minute chart reading, a very quick overview of a chart of one of my viewers who has kindly agreed to share her chart, and I will quickly look at her ascendant, rising sign, sun and moon placements, and a general overview, plus a look at how the current transits are affecting her. So if you're interested, stick around for that part. In the last video I talked all about Mercury retrograde and did a sign-by-sign breakdown. That is still relevant until the end of July, so you can go back and see that video. We're currently in the lunar month of Gemini, so this is a page from the New Zealand calendar with the fantail, the chatty, friendly fantail representing Gemini. We had a new moon in Gemini that started the lunar month on the 14th or 15th of June. And since then, the moon has been waxing, getting bigger in the sky, and now we are at the full moon point, the culmination point of the lunar month, with the full moon in the sign of Capricorn, the topic of this video. So there you can see the week that we're in on the grid of the calendar, and then this week's transits. Wow. So I usually highlight the bigger, more important events in the gold, and look how many there are this week. And I cannot talk about all of these and give them all justice. So anyway, that's the way it is. On Sunday the 28th or Monday the 29th, Mars moves into Gemini. On Monday 29th, Tuesday the 30th, three big things happening. Mercury turns retrograde. We have the full moon in Capricorn, the topic of this video, and Jupiter moves into the sign of Leo. On Wednesday the 1st, Thursday the 2nd, Jupiter is square to Chiron. Friday the 3rd, Saturday the 4th, Mars is conjunct Uranus, not easy. And then finally, Mars sextile Neptune. Okay, first of all, Mars moving into the sign of Gemini. Mars has been having to be more patient and slowing down in the sign of Taurus for the last 6 weeks or so, but now it's moving into the sign of Gemini, where it is going to be allowed to be its speedy, direct, and fiery self, because the air is going to help that fire to burn. So there'll be lots of energy, there'll be a lot of drive to learn things and to do lots of different things. Communication will be more direct, blunt, even. Take care to be respectful of others. We'll have to remember that. So what I've said here, it's until the 11th of August, energy to do many things and avoid aggressive talk. There might be more arguments under this, but then also sometimes direct speech without beating about the bush can be really useful. And then, as the topic of last week's video, Mercury turns retrograde on the 29th or 30th of June until the end of July. It's at 26 degrees of Cancer, is going to be going back through Cancer. Always during Mercury retrograde, expect that there will be communication errors, glitches with machinery, and it's a good time for research and review and going back over things. Check all your messages before you send them and be patient, because it's just something we have to ride through. We will be expecting to fix up mistakes during this time. And then the full moon in the sign of Capricorn, you can see the times that it occurs on there. I'll be going into detail about this later in the video. And then Jupiter has been in the sign of Cancer, exalted, benevolent, bringing opportunities and blessings to the Cancer part of your chart for the last year. And on Monday, the 29th, 30th, just after the full moon, it moves into the sign of Leo. And that is going to be bringing about for the next year more confidence and flair and performance in the Leo part of your chart. And I'm hoping I can do a video about that one. And then on Wednesday, the 1st of July, Thursday, 2nd of July, Jupiter will be square to Chiron. Jupiter is doing some really interesting transits in its time through Leo. So like I said, I hope I can do some more videos about that. All right, but Jupiter square to Chiron, you could actually go and see a video I did with my astrology tutor, that teacher, that is Ksenia Moore. We did a video that came out in December about Jupiter square to Chiron. It's happened again. It's happened before, and now it's happening again. This is a chance for healing. It's not easy, but some healing might come through this. All right, so work to approach deep wounds and shame with confidence and optimism. A square is not easy, but Jupiter does bring luck and opportunity. And if you have opportunities to heal things, that could be that. Blessed Jupiter protective support, where you can be going back into childhood wounds. aspects of shame or psychological pain that have affected you perhaps all of your life. Okay. Mars conjunct Uranus. This is the most challenging energy this week. Uranus is about sudden change, disruption, and innovation. It can be amazingly progressive and thinking outside the box. So that's the upside. The hard part here is that they are both difficult. Mars has got that feisty, sometimes aggressive energy. It's very energetic and passionate and direct, but it can tip over into being happy to start a fight. And Uranus is edgy and disruptive and brings in stuff that is not easy to deal with. It's sudden, it can be shocking. So lots of disruption could come with this towards the end of the week. Disruption that could help us to think outside the box and to break into new ground, but not necessarily easy at the time. So what I've written there: disruptive ideas, rebellion, surprising conflict, like you didn't expect to have a fight with this person and suddenly you're in an argument. Aim to fight where you do need to fight. Aim to fight for truth, for freedom, for authenticity, and allow others to also be free and authentic as you do it. Okay, this is also the beginning of a new cycle over the next 2 years. So something could come out of this that is developing over that 2 year period before they meet up again. And then Mars sextile Neptune. This is more supportive, still not necessarily easy, but it's a chance to be determined about our dreams and our visions, our creativity, and maybe our compassionate projects, our charitable campaigns. So, what I've written there: energy and determination to support charitable causes, even spiritual quests. That just lasts 2 to 3 days, and hopefully it mitigates some of the challenge of Mars sextile to Uranus, Mars conjunct Uranus. Okay, here is the quiz question for this week. So you can answer in the comments, but there is also an official YouTube quiz set up for this. Which transit this week will encourage direct speech, blunt messages, and spirited discussions? Mars entering Gemini, Mercury turning retrograde, or Jupiter entering Leo? Hey, I look forward to seeing your answers. Upcoming events, there's so much happening. There's so much happening in July. It's crazy. Okay. None of us astrologers can even cover it properly. It's just so crazy. All right. 7th of July, Neptune turns retrograde. That one's normal. That happens every year. 13th or 14th of July, the new moon in Cancer. Normal. Happens every year. But in July, we have this formation that is called, or is being called, a basket. Barbolt's basket, after a French astrologer who defined this, who looked into the future and he saw that this was coming and he named it. This incredible lineup of these very slow moving planets where they are all becoming exact in, what is it, like 3 different sextiles, 2 trines, and an opposition. It's crazy, like I said, so I'm hoping I can do videos about it. I'm going to Canada soon to see my partner because he's there at the moment, and I don't know if I'm going to have time to do the videos to cover this, but it's so important and I do want to, so I will try. Okay. Let's look at the full moon in the sign of Capricorn that's happening this week. It will take place on Monday the 29th of June if you're in North America, Tuesday the 30th of June if you're in Australia and New Zealand. If you are in the UK, it's around about midnight on the 29th, turning into the 30th. A full moon is always a peak moment. It's the sun and the moon start together. They start together in the sky at the new moon. They are conjunct. And then the moon gets further and further away from the sun until it is completely on the opposite side of the sky from the sun so the sun can shine its light across to the moon. Okay, the moon is reflecting the sun's light. It's a culmination point of that 29.5 day lunar cycle. It's the halfway point. It's kind of like the climax of the story of that lunar month. Okay, so what to do at full moon? Take a moment to pause and look at what is. Think about your intentions for the month. What have you achieved and what are you grateful for? It's a really good time to be acknowledging what you've done and to be grateful to yourself. All the things on your to-do list that you've achieved. We can never achieve all of them, I have found. I'm sure you've found as well. But also where you've taken some small steps or big steps sometimes towards your longer term goals, especially with Capricorn. It's about long-term goals and building for the future. Okay. Enjoy the higher energy of the full moon. So even though I've said take a pause, there is this higher energy and it's often is a good time for a party. Be aware of heightened emotions, and the light of the moon can reveal things that were hidden. Okay, so yes, that appreciation moment, but also enjoy, you'll almost feel it in your blood, like you've got this higher vibration going on. Okay, the full moon in Capricorn. So the sign of Capricorn is very much about the earth. It is rock. It is very stable and grounded. And it's a cardinal sign. It wants to reach for the future by taking slow but steady steps, step by step, climbing a mountain, represented traditionally by the goat, mountain goat, and you can see there a mountain where goats exist. In New Zealand, at least, we have goats roaming around, and that stoicism, like I mentioned before, being steady at what you want to achieve. Okay, the full moon is ruled by Saturn because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and it happens to be square to the full moon. So extra Saturnian energy, which is about following the rules and the regulations, being strict and disciplined, working hard, not being light, not being fluffy, facing up and taking responsibility for duties and any responsibilities that you have, shouldering them. Okay, that's a bit of a boring full moon in some ways, maybe not so good for a party. And just looking at this opposition. So this here is the astrological. Oh, is my mouse going to work? I don't know. Nope. Okay. You can see in the middle there that opposition sign that with the two circles. That's the opposition sign. Capricorn is opposite Cancer. Capricorn is about being out in the world, doing public duties, achieving mastery by working slowly and steadily at things, being responsible and being pretty conservative and traditional. And Cancer is where the sun is, on the opposite side of the chart. And so the sun is lighting up Cancer, the sign of Cancer, and actually Cancer is the home of the moon. The moon rules Cancer. Okay. The sun is reminding us that with all this hard work and this discipline and the expectations of the outer world and duties and responsibilities, that it is also important to have time for nurturing ourselves, for nurturing our emotions, allowing emotional sensitivities, allowing time to flow and just be, and to be in the private world where you're not putting on this strong face for the public, that you are allowing yourself to just be sensitive. And with that flow and allowing the emotions can come intuition. The private life also includes home and family. In many ways, Cancer is as traditional as Capricorn, not so much by being a bastion of society in the outer world, but more like recognizing the importance of ancestry and heritage and even cultural traditions and these things that are deeply rooted in us because we come from them. They're our roots. So, how do we bring these two sides together? Emotional sensitivity with stoicism and discipline, and the private life with the public life. Okay, allowing time to nurture and be with our important people, to be at home with our housemates, our loved ones, versus our expectations in the outer world. That is one of our challenges of this full moon. So a full moon in Capricorn. A full moon is a peak moment. It's a peak moment in the lunar month, but it's also the only full moon that we will have in Capricorn this year. Okay, so consider your career, your status, your ambition in general, wherever your 10th house lies, because it's different for everyone, but Capricorn for everybody has this feeling of status, ambition, public reputation, and there's a peak moment here. Assess your progress. Measure the tangible results, because Capricorn is about the material world and tangible. It doesn't really count unless it's paying you in some way, whether that is, it doesn't have to be money, but it will be some kind of material success or success in terms of public reputation, okay? Where you have done well, and if you have been trying and working, even if it's just small achievements, that counts. Capricorn respects the small steps and that steady day by day progress. Give yourself a pat on the back for discipline and hard work where you have been showing up in that way. Being Capricorn and Saturn, this will be just, like just an understated moment of praise because, Capricorn doesn't get too carried away. It's not effusive. All right. Outward success versus home life. Consider this. Do you need to soften your approach at all? Do you need to consider emotions, intuition, and adopting a more flowing approach at times? Okay. And as well as the full moon, we have got these other really big things happening on the same day. Mercury stations retrograde on the same day. So it is a time for review in the Cancer part of your sky where the sun is. So opposite the moon. Again, reviewing and intensifying matters to do with emotional security. And later on the same day, the planet Jupiter, that great benefic, leaves the sign of Cancer and is entering Leo. It's been in Cancer for a year, and it's part of this Barbolt's basket that I'll be talking about later. Let's look at the chart of the moon. So there's the chart. You can see the moon up here in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees 14 minutes of Capricorn. The red line here means the opposition. The moon is opposite the sun, which is in the sign of Cancer at 8 degrees and 14 minutes. And these two are square to Saturn, fairly widely actually, because Saturn is at 14 degrees of Aries and Neptune is at 4 degrees of Aries. So I think, as well as the added feeling of restriction and need for discipline and facing up to responsibilities that Saturn is bringing, we're bringing in also the visionary aspect of Neptune, and these two had their conjunction back in late February, representing an epic new beginning, a long-term, like 3 decades long journey that you are going through in the Aries part of your chart. I did videos about it back then. And so I think there's something about this moon and the square where we're going to be touching base with that longer story that's unfolding, that longer quest that we're on. It's some kind of spiritual quest, even, because Neptune can be quite spiritual, and it's about charity and compassion and remembering the less fortunate people in society, but also connection to spirit. This is a square aspect, so it's not easy, and this will be about part of our journey that requires us to work hard, but also to remember that larger journey. Neptune could also bring up some confusion or getting a little bit caught up in illusions as well. But it is good to remember our visions for a wonderful world, for a wonderful life, and the imagination, visualizing that for the future with the moon, and then being prepared to do the hard work. Okay. And then you can see just down here, Mars has just moved into the sign of Gemini, as I mentioned in the transits, and you can see it coming up to that conjunction with Uranus, also newly moved into the sign of Gemini, very slow moving planet at 3 degrees, just moved in April. That is a feature of this new moon, full moon, disruption, the need to be progressive and innovative in that Gemini part of your chart, but disruption and shocks as well. So let's see how that plays out. And here you can see another big player, two other big players actually, both in the sign of Cancer at the time of the full moon. Mercury stationing, there's actually a little S there. I doubt you can see it, meaning it's just stationed. It is just turning retrograde at the point of the full moon, adding intensity to the Cancer and the emotions. And then Jupiter, the final 4 minutes of Cancer, just about to move into Leo, adding intensity to the emotions, but then some kind of change in the next day and in the next year. Once Jupiter moves into Leo, it's going to form an opposition with the sign of Pluto and sextiles with Uranus and a trine with Neptune, and that is going to create this very pretty formation. You can see half a hexagon, this geometry here with these blue lines, and I've done a graphic to show you. This is incredibly rare, and it was predicted by a French astrologer named André Barbeau, excuse my pronunciation, and he was predicting it as being the enlightenment of humanity, like humans evolving to the next level of evolution. And he saw wonderful things for the future, and that is certainly likely that a lot of wonderful things can come out of this, because this is supportive and, like I said, incredibly rare, not seen for thousands of years. Following it, like in the few years later in the decade, because this is happening over 2 years or so, but in July it's coming really exact. But following it, we will have a square between Pluto and Saturn. That won't be easy. Nevertheless, we are moving into our next level. We are leveling up. So this is what I hope I can do some videos about later. So I'm going to do a sign-by-sign breakdown starting from the sign of Cancer. You can listen for your sun, moon, or rising sign. I recommend that you listen first for your rising sign, or most importantly for your rising or ascendant sign. For that, you need to know the time that you were born so that you know what house this is falling in for you. So the rising sign is about your character in the world, like the part that you're playing in the world, your approach to life, to all aspects of your life, and in some ways how the world sees you as well. It can determine about your physical body too. The sun is more about your career, your sense of purpose, and your soul, and how your soul shines in the world. And wherever your sun is placed in your chart, that is how you shine in the world, as well as the sign. It's also about the house placement. And you might also want to listen to your moon sign, because the moon is about how you reflect life how you reflect or respond to life, because the moon is about reflected light, and this is of course so important as this is about the full moon in Capricorn. And it's so the moon is about how you think and feel as you process life. Okay, so listen to any or all of those, but firstly I would go for rising sign. Okay, and what are you listening to? So the full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees will fall in a different house for each sign. So for everyone, it will be a bit different. Find the house that holds Capricorn in your chart if you are able to cast your chart. There will be tension between that area of life and the opposite area of life. So there's 12 houses in your chart that represent different areas of life. So you're looking at public versus private life, the practical needs versus emotional needs. And there's some kind of culmination point in terms of structures that you've been building and working hard and taking steady steps towards, something about taking responsibility and career and legacy. If you are Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Capricorn Rising, on Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th of June, there is a full moon in your sign Capricorn at 8 degrees 14 minutes. That is a culmination point or a peak moment in something to do with you, all of your life, who you are in the world, the part that you play in the world, how you approach life, and how the world sees you. This can affect any part of your life because from that first house, you're looking out at everything. So you can be thinking about how hard you've been working. Have you been working terribly hard? And if you have, give yourself a pat on the back because well done. That's what Capricorn wants. And Capricorn, you've got that stoicism and that discipline in yourself. You work hard. You're great at that. And well done for it. There will be that opposition from the sun asking you to remember about emotions and private life, and that might come in the form of your partner saying something to you about that, or your partner wanting you to have more time at home even. Okay, especially as Saturn is in your fourth house. So Saturn is square to the moon, it's in your fourth house of home and family. And so while there could be some wonderful flow and imagination with Neptune there, there's Saturn wanting you to be realistic and practical in the home and maybe bringing restrictions and boundaries to home life and to your life in general. Okay, so this is a peak moment for your identity, for your body, for your direction in life. Review the person that you present to the world. Is that working for you? You can review all of yourself. How are you known in the world? What do you put out to the world? Is it just all about hard work, discipline, being realistic and practical and very grounded? Do you allow a little bit of flow and intuition and emotions? Are emotions allowed to exist in your life? Have a think about that with this full moon. How is your balance of, I've already written it. How is your balance of structure and discipline versus flow and the allowance of emotion? Who are you versus what others expect? Because the first house is very much on the relationship axis between yourself and another person, whether that person is your partner or a business partner or people that you work with on a one-to-one basis. But in the really fundamental archetypal way, it's about self and other. So who are you versus what others expect? Who do you want to be when you are in that one-to-one relationship? Are you being yourself? That's part of your question. But overall, Capricorn, this is a culmination point for you, a chance to review who you are in the world and what you're doing in the world and what your life is like and your approach to life. So all the best for it, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aquarius Rising, on Monday the 29th of June or Tuesday the 30th of June, there'll be a full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees. This is in your 12th house, Aquarius. So it's a full moon there where you will be doing some retreat and some time out. Okay. A lot to do with your private life and maybe the aspects of you that nobody else knows about. The 12th house is a very hidden area. This could also be on a practical level about places of retreat or places that are out of the way from the world, like hospitals or care homes, places that are not in the main part of life that we're always hearing about. They're a little bit hidden, tucked away. Not everyone knows about them. The sun is shining a light across to that full moon and lighting up that 12th hidden house from your 6th house, which is very much about being in the world. So the sun is in the world. It's doing the details of daily life. It's thinking about your work and it's shining a light, actually. It's lighting up your house of your work and the service that you give in the world, whether it's paid work or volunteer work. Any ways that you give practical service in the world. You could be kind of emotional about that because Cancer is an emotional sign and that is your 6th house. But the 6th house, as well as your work, it's about your daily routines. It's about your health. And maybe there's been some aspects of your health that have been showing up, especially with Mercury retrograde there. So, something to think about in terms of your daily life and how you can be letting your emotions be part of daily life and emotional flow there. And then that's shining across to this 12th house and something about your private life where you're quite disciplined and really practical about it. And you may need to face up to some aspects of that private life and something that can happen in the 12th house is addictions, where you're doing escapist practices that you're getting into too much. They're becoming too much of taking over you a bit. Okay. The 12th house can also be, with its connection to out of the way places, can be about distant lands, foreign places, very, very far away and out of the world. So there might be some kind of culmination point there to do with foreign places or travel. Okay. But in the meantime, your daily life is requiring you to show up to it with the sun there. At the same time, as well, the ruler of the moon, which is also your ancient ruler, Aquarius, Saturn, is in your 3rd house of your neighborhood. And that's very much also a part of daily life. The 3rd house is about communication and messages and social media, small business, and traveling around your neighborhood, going here and there, talking to people, messages back and forth, making arrangements. So all these daily life things are calling for your attention, but the full moon is also wanting you to take some time out and to show up in a way that makes you more disciplined, perhaps. Okay, let's see what I've written. So the full moon is a peak moment for retreat, for connection with spirit, because that 12th house can be very much, when you have that time out, about connecting to your unconscious self and connecting with all that is, with the universe, with your spirituality. What do you need to release? Have you been too structured? Or do you need more structure in your private life? And this tension, this retreat versus daily life and life admin, work and service. So I wrote there the just be message versus the work ethic that's needed. So good luck with that, Aquarius, with working that out. The 12th house is very dreamy, and the 6th and the 3rd house are very much practical and in the world. And then Capricorn, of course, is very structured. So something to resolve there. So please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Pisces Rising, On Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th of June, there is a full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees in our 11th house. Pisces, I am one of you. I'm Pisces rising and Pisces moon. So the 11th house is about friendship groups and networks that you belong to, groups of people that you're connected to, perhaps through a shared vision or a shared goal. The 11th house is also about your own personal goals for the public world, your long-term goals, your ambitions. And the 11th house is also about the gains that you can get from your career, whether that is public status or the perks of career or the career helping you towards your long-term goals or your income. So there's some kind of culmination point in any of these and a need to be facing up to the practicalities and the realism and the discipline and hard work and responsibilities needed in these areas. So, what are those? And how have you been doing with that? Review your hard work in these areas. And at the same time, the sun is on the opposite side of the chart in your fifth house. And that's about emotion and sensitivities in the sign of Cancer. But in general, the fifth house for you, Pisces, while you might be emotional and nurturing and sensitive in that area, it's about your children. It's about your hobbies and your creativity, your creative projects, and even entrepreneurial endeavors. The fifth house is about your heart and what comes from your heart and where you want to shine out in the world with what comes from your heart. And that includes your children, the children that you have, or children in your life. And also partners, no, not partners, romantic partners, more like dating partners, not long term committed stories, but your dating partners, your romantic life. So the sun is shining up that area at the moment, and Mercury will be going retrograde in that area over the next 3 weeks. So you're reviewing all of those topics and you're thinking about how your emotions play in and your sensitivities. And the moon on the other side is asking you to be really practical and disciplined and responsible in terms of the networks and groups of people and your long-term goals and career gains. So how do you bring those together? That is a question for you. And then at the same time, the Saturn and Neptune are square to the moon, and so they're in a T square with the sun and moon. And that is your second house of your finances, or mine as well, our finances and our income and our sense of self-worth about finances. So how is that playing in? Okay. All right. So what have I written? A peak moment in friendships and networks. What do you owe to your friendships? What responsibilities do you have towards them? Also, long-term goals and career gains. Review your friendships and the groups you belong to. Review your career gains, financial or other. Are your goals realistic? Are they too rigid? And so there is this tension between as well, because it's the 11th house is about these friendship groups and networks that you belong to. There's tension and they have goals. You've got shared visions and shared things that you're working towards, especially where it's like perhaps towards some social vision for a better future for humanity that can come in with the 11th house. So group goals versus your personal creativity. Okay, so review all of that, Pisces, and all the best for this full moon. I hope that you find it's in the end maybe hard but helpful. So please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Aries, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aries Rising, on Monday the 29th of June or Tuesday the 30th, there will be a full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees, and Aries, this is affecting your 10th house. So it's some kind of culmination moment for your house of career and your public reputation. And your career is your work, but it's more about your long-term career and eventually that will lead to a legacy that you want to leave behind in the world. And maybe you have some big visions for this, Aries, especially as the ruler of that full moon is Saturn, and that is going through your sign. That's making you think about the long term, and it's making you probably be a little bit of a serious person over the next 2 years. You've also got Neptune there for 14 years, so you're also thinking about things being more spiritual and imaginative and creative, and how can you help people through charitable work or through compassion or spirituality. There's all sorts going on for you, Aries, with Saturn and Neptune. It's a really big, long journey for you. And this square with the full moon is maybe making you think, where are you up to so far? Okay. What are your long-term goals? And how is your career working towards your long-term goals? Okay. Is your career on the right track? There's a moment of review. And at the same time as all of that, the sun is in your fourth house of home or family. That's being lit up at the moment by the sun. And it is going through a period of review because Mercury is retrograde, going through that fourth house. Home, family, private life, heritage, properties that you own, people that you live with, and emotions and sensitivities, and the need to nurture those and allow some flow in life. And from that flow, intuition can come. That could be really insightful. So there's that practical, grounded, earthly reality required. And then sometimes intuition or the insight that comes from our intuition can just bump us forward so much more than the steady working step by step. But mostly, this moon is about working steadily, step by step, in a responsible and measured way. So let's see what I've written here. This full moon is a peak moment in your career or public reputation, and there could be some recognition that comes with that. So that could be nice. It won't be really effusive because this is a Capricorn square to Saturn serious full moon. Review your ambition, review your career goals, review the legacy that you want to leave behind. If you're not working for in paid work, in a paid career at the moment, this 10th house is still about your public reputation and what you're known for in the world. Are your plans for your career well structured and realistic? Are your plans and approaches too rigid? Do you need more flow? So there's this tension between career versus home life, public versus private life, the practical versus the emotional. I wish you luck with the Aries. You guys are our leaders. You've got Saturn and Neptune. You had the conjunction at 0 degrees of your sign. You're leaders anyway. You're pioneers. You're fiery. And you are taking us into the future. So all the best, Aries. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Taurus, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Taurus Rising, on Monday the 29th of June or Tuesday the 30th, there's a full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees, and that is taking place in your ninth house of your travel, foreign travel, or your connections with people from other cultures that might be living near you. The ninth house is also about higher learning, university learning, higher level study, and it's also about it can be about legal matters and justice and the law, and it's also about ethical principles, the philosophy of life, and it's it's about broadening one's horizons overall through travel or through learning or through thinking about the big questions of life and seeking meaning in life, trying to understand the big picture of the meaning of life. So you've got Capricorn in that sign, in that house. Capricorn falls in that house. So you're quite realistic and practical about the meaning of life, Taurus. You're an earth sign yourself, so grounded and realistic. And this full moon is a culmination moment in that. So what questions about the meaning of life have you been considering? What higher level study have you been doing? Have you reached the end of a long assignment? Have you got to a point in your travel plans where you've booked something to go away and connect with another culture, or you've got to the point where you're packing your bags for it? Some kind of peak moment. And then there's a challenge. Okay, there's two challenges. One is the opposition with the sun, which always happens at full moon, and the sun is in Cancer, which is your third house of your neighborhoods, your local community, your connections around the community, you're traveling around talking to people. That can also be about social media and those kind of community connections, small business, doing local courses or local learning, local schools. And there's a feeling of a need to allow in these areas to be emotional and flowing and to nurture sensitivities that are going on in those areas. And with Mercury going retrograde in that area coming up over the next 3 weeks, that is going to be intensified. There's a need to review that. And then that's an opposition to the need with your ninth house, with that full moon in Capricorn, to be dedicated to hard work and facing up to responsibilities to do with travel, to do with your learning. Like maybe you're trying to study, but then you're trying to teach in a school at the same time, and it's really hard to fit everything in. Or maybe you're trying to plan for your travel and prepare for your travel, but then you've got all these duties to do in your neighborhood, and your neighbors all upset, and you need to support them emotionally through their divorce or something that's going on in your community or neighborhood. Yeah, so these kinds of things, and Mercury retrograde, that won't be easy, and you're wanting to put this discipline and hard work into that ninth house of travel or higher level study or understanding the meaning of life or the legal matters. And at the same time, there's a square, another challenging aspect, the square from Saturn and Neptune in your 12th house. So the 12th house is your house of retreat and how you escape from the world and take some time out, and you're away from your normal life, and you might want to do some resting and sleeping, and um, the need for that might be making it hard with the third house of your neighborhood and with the travel plans. So let's see how it goes. Right, what have I written? So the full moon in Capricorn will bring for you, Taurus, peak moments in your beliefs about the meaning of life, travel, philosophy. It's time to review these. Take a moment of pause to look at them. Are your study or travel plans realistic and practical? Are your beliefs too rigid? Do you need more flow, more emotions in your belief systems, in your understanding of the meaning of life, or in your travel plans, in your higher learning study that you're doing? There's this tension between your big picture beliefs versus your communications, excuse my phone, your communications and your travel versus your local routines. So all the best for that, Taurus, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Gemini Rising, the full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees will be taking place on Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th of June, depending on where you are in the world. And that moon is taking place in your 8th house, Gemini. The 8th house is going to be having some kind of culmination moment or a peak moment or something revealed about it. This is a house of secrets. It's a house of hidden wealth, hidden power games that can go on. On the practical level, this is a house of hidden wealth. So this could be about large amounts of money that you have connection to, but you don't necessarily have easy access to, especially your partner's money, whether that is a life partner or a business partner. So something revealed or a need to structure any of these. It can also be about retirement savings, inheritances, investments. Okay, the eighth house is also about explorations into the occult. This is the hidden part. What is underneath? What are your underlying psychological layers? And where you have connections with a partner, what is underneath that? What are the hidden layers of vulnerability that you could share with each other in intimate moments, hidden power and how power is used, hidden vulnerabilities, desires, hidden desires, and your secret dreams, even, and secret fears that you could share with a partner. It's a house of the deep down underlying layers. If you are single, if you don't have a partner, or you're not working with a business partner closely, this might be about your own deep down underlying psychological layers. And the full moon in Capricorn with a square to Saturn is asking you to be structured about your exploration of these, or about your understanding. And it might mean that you realize you've been using power in a certain way, or others around you, maybe a significant other, is using power in your relationship in a certain way, and you need to put a boundary around what's going on, around your own wielding of power and these underlying, possibly emotionally manipulative ways, and you need to put boundaries and structures around that for your protection, and so that you are being respectful to others as well. Okay, in the meantime, the sun is in your second house. It's lighting up things that are much more in the real world. They are tangible, they're not hidden and secret, and that is your wealth and your finances, your own personal income, your possessions and resources. So the sun is there, lighting that area up, asking you to look at emotional flow and nurture sensitivities in that area. And the underlying reality of that second house is that our possessions and our finances reflect they reflect your sense of self-worth. Okay, and so allowing yourself to explore some aspects of your sense of self-worth. What do you believe that you are worth? And this is on the underlying level, so you can't just tell yourself, yes, I'm worth it, and you believe it instantly. There's some work to do there. And again, the psychological layers and the exploring of those could help with that. But where those emotional sensitivities exist, you've also got Mercury going retrograde in that area. So you really are reviewing your finances and your sense of self-worth, and how that is reflected in your possessions and your resources that you have to hand, and how you look after those, how you value them. And it could be that you are just reviewing on a really practical level your positions and seeing what you've got and your income, and thinking about, do you need some more, or have you got enough? Can you let go of some of your hard work so that you can have more time for yourself? Okay. And then you've got the square and from Saturn and Neptune, and that's happening in your 11th house. So that's about your career gains. Again, this could be looking at your sense of self-worth. It's about your long-term goals and about your friendship groups. Okay. So all of this polarity between practical reality and emotional sensitivities is kind of mixed up across these two houses. So let's look at what I've written. So the full moon in Capricorn is in your 8th house. It's a peak moment. It's a chance to review your resources, your intimacy with a partner. Are your boundaries around money and intimacy too rigid? Or is more discipline and structure needed, like more rigidity perhaps is needed? What is the mixture there? What would be a good balance? Explore psychology and power, desire and fears. And there's tension between shared resources with a partner versus your personal wealth, your hidden value versus tangible wealth or tangible value. So lots to think about there. And good luck, Gemini, with that, especially as at late in the week, you've got that Mars-Uranus conjunction happening in your house that could bring some kind of shock and disruption and conflict into your life. And it will only last a few days in terms of that intensity of it. So ride through it, adapt as you're good at doing, Gemini, and good luck with it. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Cancer Rising, the full moon on Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th of June is happening at 8 degrees of Capricorn in your 7th house of your relationship, your partner, your one-to-one relationships, whether that is in work or pleasure, anybody you spend a lot of time with, but especially business partners or your actual life partner. And it's likely that your life partner or your partners in any of these contexts, that they can be quite serious, practical kind of people, not into the woo-woo, not too much into emotional sensitivities and all that. That's the nature of your partners in life in general, is what you attract in partnership. But there's an especial adding to that with this full moon there and some kind of culmination moment for you in relationship, but also it could be for the partner themselves. I'm just going to use an example of what kind of a culmination moment could look like. My sister was living with my mum and dad, and my dad wasn't well, and my sister had a kid there too, my nephew, and there was a point where they looked at each other. They're working out all of life, they're running the house, they're running the lives to everybody and organizing the care of my dad and of the little boy. And there was a point where they looked at each other and they said, we're basically partners. We're partners. we are partners. They were working together on this one-to-one basis, and that moment where they realized that, and they said that, they stated it, that could be the kind of culmination moment that can happen. That's an example of how a full moon can play out. Okay. At the same time as this stuff is going on for your partner or for the partnership, the sun is in your house, Cancer, lighting you up, your first house, yourself, who you are in the world, your body. Maybe you're being noticed more than usual because the sun is in your house, your first house. And Mercury is stationing retrograde, going to go back over aspects of yourself that you are reviewing. And the first house is about everything in life. It looks out on all parts of the chart and of your life. So everything in your life could be up for review with this Mercury retrograde, and then with the full moon, there's this added focus on your partner. And as well as that, the full moon is square to Neptune and Saturn in your 10th house of career. So there could be some challenges coming between your career and your career goals, your partner and what's happening for them, and for you in your first house where you've got some kind of review going on and you're possibly feeling more emotional and sensitive with Mercury retrograde. Yeah, there's a lot going on there, Cancer. Let's have a look at what I've written. So a peak moment in partnership and one-to-one relationships. Review who has worked with you and for you in your life over the last year even. Are your relationships well balanced? Is there good sharing of give and take in relationship? And there's this tension between your partner's needs versus your needs, the self versus the other, and there's a tension between practicality and emotional sensitivity. So all the best for that, Cancer, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and good luck with Mercury retrograde. And also, I'll add to that, I hope that you've had a really nice time and some blessings in your life come in. I'm not saying nice time all the time, but I hope you have had some nice times with Jupiter in your sign over the last year. It's going to be going out of your sign this week. You could also be reviewing what that last year has been like with the Great Benefic going through your sign. If you are Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Leo Rising, on Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th of June, there is a full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees, and that is taking place in your sixth house. The sixth house is about your daily routines for life, your life admin, your routines for health and exercise. It also can be a house of sickness or illness or health matters, and you might be thinking about your nutritional eating and thinking about remedies for things. And a really big part of the sixth house as well is your work and your service, your daily work that you go to where you're giving service in practical ways in the world. And with Capricorn in that house, you really are practical about your daily work. Okay, so there's some kind of review or a culmination moment with the full moon there, and a need to remind yourself perhaps about hard work and doing things in a step by step way. And the rewards don't come instantly with that Capricorn energy, especially with the square to Saturn and Neptune. Both of those are slow moving and long term, and Saturn definitely likes things to be um, that you're building towards things over the long term in a step by step, steady, regular, hard-working, disciplined fashion. Okay, facing up to responsibilities. So this is a house of responsibilities, the sixth house, and Saturn is adding to that. At the same time, the sun is in your 12th house of retreat and escape and rest and sleep and dreams. And you might be feeling the need with the sun there and Mercury going retrograde in that house for some time out and rest and just having some flowing time where you're escaping from the humdrum of life that is represented by the sixth house and the showing up to all those duties and admin of life. You want to escape from that. You want to just be in flow, time where you can just be doing whatever you want to do in the moment, connecting to spirits. There's some spirituality there, just getting very flowing and quite disconnected in a way. It's an escapism house. That could also have to do with foreign travel because foreign lands are in very distant places out of the way. It could also have to do with out of the way places that are part of normal life, like hospitals and retreat centers, hospice, care homes. So there could be some connections going on with those and some stuff to review with any of those because Mercury will be going in retrograde in that house. So some kind of tension for you with this full moon, Leo, between those everyday life routines and practices and um, giving service in the practical way in the world versus wanting to retreat from the world and have this time out and be away from those requirements. There's a challenge there. And then also, the ruler of the moon is Saturn, and that is placed in a square to the moon, so T square, in your, let me think, your ninth house. So your ninth house of travel and higher learning, university study, legal matters, and your belief systems. Okay, so you're wanting to be structured with those as well, and there could be some kind of challenge from any of those areas with this sixth house, 12th house opposition. Okay, lots going on there. I'm going to read out what I've written. So the full moon in Capricorn in your sixth house, Leo, represents a peak moment in your daily routines, your health, and your work. Okay, what can you realize about these? Review your daily habits and review your work and how you give service in the world. Are there some tangible results to be seen? Have a look at that with a clear eye. Are your routines sustainable? Are they too rigid? Do you need more discipline or the opposite, more ease, more allowance of emotions and sensitivities? And I don't feel like getting up at 6 and doing my press ups today. Or do you need to get up at 6 and do your press ups every day so that you maintain that upper body strength, which you need for your health and your mind and your mental wellness as well as your body? Anyway, so tension between discipline versus rest, structure versus flow, and control versus surrender. The sixth house is about keeping control of our lives, not letting it get out of control, keeping order. And the 12th house is about surrender, letting go, and endings, things finishing, like you just let them go, you just surrender them. That can be the 12th house. So can you work out that balance? Okay, all the best for that, Leo, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Virgo sun, moon, or rising, but especially Virgo rising, on Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th of June, there is a full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees in your fifth house. This is a lovely house to be having a full moon in. Even if it is challenging, it's still lovely. The fifth house is about a lot of the fun aspects of life, like your pursuit of your creative hobbies, things that you do because you love doing them. They're fun and playful, and that includes children in your life, whether that is your own children or other children that you have connections to, and also your romantic life and dating. So there's a full moon in that house of all of those things, the things that come from your heart, and that's a chance to review what's been going on with those areas over the last year or even the last 6 months, since there was a new moon in the sign of Capricorn around about the turn of the year, of the calendar year, and think about what has been achieved. How have you been doing? Have a look at it. And Capricorn always in this part of your chart, Virgo, means that you have a kind of practical and realistic and hardworking approach to your hobbies. I think we can see that in you, Virgo. You are you're dedicated to the details and to doing things in a step-by-step way with your hobbies, with Capricorn and your fifth house in general. And this full moon with its square to Saturn is going to be highlighting that aspect. So you can be thinking about your hobbies and thinking, am I structured enough about the way I'm doing them? You can be thinking about your kids and thinking, am I managing them well? Am I letting them wrap me around their little finger, or do I need to take charge more, be more authoritative, more rules and boundaries with them? And this can be the same in the dating world if you're dating, or in a romantic relationship that's not committed but you're spending time with somebody in a romantic way. Yeah, so have a think about all of those. And then at the same time, from your 11th house is shining the sun. So the sun is in your 11th house at the moment, and Mercury will be going retrograde in that house. So there's a lot of focus there, and Jupiter's been there as well. That's Cancer. Your 11th house is about your friendship groups and your connections to networks of people or large organizations. The 11th house is also about the gains that you get from your career, whether that is your income from your career, your salary, or also any other kind of gains and wins that you get from your career, whether that is your public status or the contribution your career makes towards your long-term goals, because the 11th house is also about long-term goals, especially where those goals are affecting a wider community. So there's a lot of energy in that area, and there's some sensitivity in that area and emotions that comes with that Cancer energy that's there. And Mercury is going to be making you review all of those things. And there's these questions about how do you balance what comes from your creative self, your personal, individual, independent self, your heart, you, that unique part of you that you want to produce and create and put out in the world in a structured way, Capricorn, versus the needs of the group, of the whole, the collective. And some of those needs might be emotional needs, because this is Cancer we're talking about. So there's that kind of tension. And at the same time, there might be some challenge from your 8th house of your partner's money, or your hidden psychological layers, or intimacy with a partner, and underneath everything, power and power plays, and how you how power is wielded on the underlying hidden levels. And that might be in terms of large amounts of money and investments and retirement savings, or your partner's money, especially. Something coming from that area as well, because that is where Saturn, the ruler of this full moon, is placed. Neptune is there as well. Let's have a look at what I've written. So the full moon in the sign of Capricorn, Virgo, represents a peak moment in self-expression, romance, children, leadership and performance, because leadership and performance are also part of the 5th house. Review a creative project, review a romance, review an issue with a child. Okay? Are your creative and heartfelt projects realistic, or are they too rigid? There's some kind of tension between your personal creativity versus the group needs, and some kind of tension between heart and emotion versus logic and practical needs. So there you go, Virgo. You're very practical, so I think you'll manage the practical side of things easily. And then underneath that, you've got this beautiful sensitive heart. So this is always a question for you, Virgo, for all of us actually, but you've got that real practical side, but there's a very sweet feeling heart under there, Virgo. So all the best for that, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Libra Rising, the full moon in the sign of Capricorn takes place on the 29th or 30th of June, Monday or Tuesday, at 8 degrees, and that's happening in your 4th house, an important house for you, Libra, the angular house of home and family, ancestry, roots, emotional safety and stability, and heritage. Okay, your roots, but also the house you live in, the people you live with, properties that you own. So the moon is a culmination point for any of these areas, or all of these areas even. Okay, and you might be looking at them and thinking, am I structured enough about how I run my home? Do I have good boundaries with the people I live with? Or am I being too rigid with them even? Too many boundaries or not enough boundaries. What is it? Have a look. It's a time to review this. Okay. And then this can also be with properties that you own. It might be that you're looking at renovations and thinking, how can I structure this in a practical way? Anything like that. It could also be about, how do you set up good boundaries that work for you really well and work for everybody ideally with your family of origin? Do you need to let them in more, or do you need to have some kind of a little more boundary around your family of origin? This could be a question that comes up. At the same time, the sun is in your 10th house of career. So your career is all lit up by the sun. You've had a year of Jupiter moving through your career house, and I hope you've received some blessings and opportunities in your career over that time. But now Jupiter's moving out. Mercury will be retrograde in your career house. There's a time for a review with your career, with your public reputation, with work that you're doing in the world that you're known for, and long-term goals for the legacy that you want to leave behind. I have a think about that over the next 3 weeks with Mercury retrograde there. But in the meantime, with this week coming up, we've got the full moon coming from your 4th house, and there's this tension between your career and your home life. And how can you balance that tension? All right. Also, Saturn, the ruler of the moon, of the full moon, and Neptune, they are in the house of your partner. They're in the 7th house, Aries. That's the house of your partner, your significant other, or people that you work in partnership with, like a business partner or clients. Okay, so there's might be some kind of tension coming from there as well. So let's have a look at what I've written. Okay, the full moon in Capricorn, Libra, is in your 4th house of home and family and property, a peak moment in home, family, property ownership, and emotional foundations. That's part of the fourth house. So review your living situation. Have a look at it. If it's going well, that's great. Give yourself a small measured pat on the back. Review your family connections. Are your home foundations stable and reliable? That's a Capricorn way. And you need that, Libra. You've got Capricorn in the fourth house all of your life. So you like to have security there and stability. Do you need to allow, though, more emotion, empathy, and intuition, more allowance of others and their sensitivities in the home, more allowance of your own sensitivities in the home? So some kind of tension with the home life versus career. And just going back to the emotional sensitivities, because your career house is ruled by Cancer, it might mean that there is some kind of nurturing work that you do with your career where you are, or some property work, working with properties, real estate, or something where you're helping people make their homes beautiful or something like that, and you're allowing that sensitivity with your clients and your career or the people that you work with. Somehow there's a recognition of tradition and ancestry, or just the allowing of emotions to be part of life and career. So, yeah. Anyway, these tensions, home life versus career, the public life versus the private life, and how do you make sure that a home can be nurturing when you've got a really practical approach to it. So, all the best for that, Libra, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Scorpio Rising, on Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th of June, there's a full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees, and that is taking place in your third house. That is a house of your local community and neighborhoods, and your travel around the local community and the chats that you have with your neighbors, with community members around and about. This could be also about local learning, like courses that you're doing, evening classes, and learning hand skills or doing craft work in your neighborhoods. The third house is also about social media and communications and messaging and thinking and small business, trade and exchange. Also learning. So it can have to do with schools in the neighborhood. So there's so much to do with the third house. It's all about ordinary life and the connections that we make, and it's also known as a house of the goddess, which I love because I love how ordinary life is like to do with the goddess. It's lovely. Okay, so there's some kind of culmination moment with something to do with your third house, your neighbors, your local travel, any of those things that I mentioned. A culmination moment that comes once a year, and you can look back to what was started 6 months ago or so when we had the new moon in the sign of Capricorn, or you could look back over the last 18 months or so. But whatever it is, there's some kind of peak moment. You're noticing what's going on with your neighborhood and maybe thinking, oh, there's some good stuff there, or there's some stuff that needs to be sorted out. So if you take a moment to step back and review with the full moon, okay? At the same time, the sun is lighting up, and with Mercury going retrograde and Jupiter having recently been in it, your ninth house, where Cancer lies, your ninth house of distance, distant travel, so not your local travel, your distant travel, and not your local learning, but your higher learning, like if you're doing some university study or something, and your big, wide, expansive belief systems about the meaning of life. So the third house is about the local and the ordinary and the spirituality, the divinity in that. And the ninth house is about more consciously thinking about divinity and the meaning of life and having belief systems or a religion. The ninth house can also be, as I said, about travel and foreign places and connections with foreign cultures, higher learning, and legal matters as well. Okay, so the sun is there, lighting that up, shining across at the full moon, and the sun is um, highlighting as well the sensitivity that you've got in that area of the belief systems and the travel and the recognition that, like, respecting, say, when it comes to travel, you might have a real respect and interest in people and their roots and culture, and maybe Indigenous people because of the deep rooted nature of the Indigenous people's relationship to land. There might be, when you travel, some recognition of people and their sensitivities and their needs for nurturing and their nationality and their national pride and their roots and all of that. That just might happen to be. Anyway, there's some kind of review with Mercury retrograde and with the full moon as well about your foreign travel, and that is mixing up. You need to find a way to integrate the needs of the local versus the needs of the distant. Okay, the needs of ordinary life versus the needs of trying to understand the big picture of life, or the needs of local learning, doing your hand skills, learning just basic fundamental skills like even literacy and numeracy, versus doing higher level study where you're looking at specialized courses or really high level learning. Okay. And then at the same time, there's a square from Saturn from your, let me think, what is it? Um, it's in your sixth house. Okay, so your sixth house of also an ordinary life house, the house of your daily routines, house of your work and service in the world. Saturn is there, and you've got 2 years of Saturn there, making you having to be realistic and pragmatic and responsible with working extra hard in how you give service in the world and in your routines for life, possibly bringing some health challenges. That is square to the moon. So all of these will be playing in. So what have I written here? The full moon in Capricorn in your third house, Scorpio, is a peak moment in communication, neighborhood connections, learning, and local travel. Oh, I forgot to mention, yes. All right, the third house, it covers so many things. It's also about your relationships with your brothers and sisters and other relations. So you might be reviewing your relationships in your family, your wider family. You might be reviewing some community matters. Are your communications and local connections well grounded? And are they even too rigid? Okay, are they well structured, but maybe too well structured? Do you need to let some more flow and emotional allowance and understand that even if things are not logical on the local level, they might have meaning in a bigger picture way? Okay, I don't know. I don't have an example for what I mean there, but anyway, I'll move on. So there's some kind of tension between local everyday life and versus big picture belief. Okay, so all the best for that, Scorpio. I think you are good at emotions, but your emotions can be kind of hidden, and it might be harder to bring them out into the open. But that Sun and Mercury retrograde in the sign of Cancer in your ninth house might be helping you remember that even when it comes to the big picture questions, like that emotions are important. Like even with the big picture worldly stuff, human emotion and our sensitivities and our ability through connecting to emotions that can lead to intuition and insight, that is important as part of the bigger picture as well. So all the best for that, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. If you are Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Sagittarius Rising, on Monday the 29th or Tuesday the 30th of June, there's a full moon in the sign of Capricorn at 8 degrees, and that is taking place in your second house, Sagittarius. This is the house of your income, your finances, your personal wealth, and your possessions and resources. There's something to review there, and there's a requirement with this full moon square to Saturn, the planet of responsibility, duty, and structure. to look at your finances and consider, are they well structured? Am I being disciplined enough? Am I being disciplined enough with my spending and with how I look after my possessions? Okay. And underneath that, underneath the second house and its concern with worldly wealth and finances in a material sense, you can also look at your sense of self-worth. Do you believe in yourself enough? And when you look at your wealth and possessions, do they reflect the value that you give yourself? These can be the questions you ask as you review the structures of your financial situation and your structures for how you look after and show value for your possessions and therefore show value for yourself. Okay. At the same time, the sun is in the 8th house of your partner's money or other large amounts of money that you don't have ready access to, like retirement savings or investments. And in that area, you're not being asked so much to be structured, you're being asked to look at the emotional needs there. Maybe you and your partner need to have some time where you can address your intimacy and perhaps be more vulnerable with each other. And this might be reflected in how you share money, how you share resources and power in your relationship. And it could be a really good time for emotional intimacy, actually. And with Mercury retrograde, you might be going back over some old ground over the next few weeks with your partner and about how and what vulnerability you share with each other and your deep desires and deep fears that you share with each other and how you share power in the relationship. And sometimes that is reflected in the way that money is shared in the relationship. So that's all lit up by the sun and it's shining across to the moon where you're taking a rational, cold-eyed look at your own finances. Added to that, there is the square from the moon's ruler, Saturn, in your, let me think, your 4th house of your home and your family of origin, but it could be the home that you live in now and the people that you live with. So there could be some kind of tension from there or needs there as well. And this practical, structured approach that's either needed or maybe a little less is needed. This review period is to help you assess that balance. So what have I written? So the full moon in Capricorn is in your 2nd house, Sagittarius. This is a peak moment in money, possessions, and values. What you value, how you prioritize this value over that value, and so on. Review your income, review your budget, review your sense of self-worth. Are your finances realistic? Are they too rigid? Is more flow needed? Or is more structure needed? Could be either or a bit of both. So there's some kind of tension as well as those between your personal income and the shared resources that you have with your partner or investments. So you're looking at those large amounts of money that maybe your retirement savings versus what you're earning now and how much you keep for yourself and your life that's going on now. Overall, it's a really good chance to review these things, and I wish you all the best for it, Sagittarius. So please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. That's the end of the all signs breakdown, everyone. So we are in this stage with this full moon where we need to be thinking about that big old life conundrum about how do we balance our earthly needs with our emotional needs. And we've got to be practical. Living on earth, that we have been given this life on earth, it's an absolute blessing. It's a roller coaster ride, but it's a blessing. We have this life on earth, and how do we meet those earthly needs and the limits and the restrictions of life and the need to eat and sleep and have shelter and the work that it takes to get that? Saturn, realism and adulting versus those other parts of life that are our emotional side that gives us the emotions. They're like this gateway to our intuition, and the planets that help us remember there's more to life than just the practicality and the pragmatism and the earthly material things like the moon. We remember about the emotions with the full moon. And also like Neptune taking us into other worlds. In fact, all the outer planets reminding us there's more than what we can see. Okay, yeah, so that's all for this video, except that if you want to stick around, I'm now going to do a 5-minute reading. I'll put the timer on for a viewer of mine that replied to the comments a couple of weeks ago, and she sent me her birth details, so I'm going to look at her chart, and it might be interesting to you to see how a chart is read and some things about how the different aspects of the chart work together. So if you're leaving now, bye for now, but stick around if you want to listen to that. Have a good week, everybody. Good luck for the full moon and for Mercury turning retrograde, and be peaceful. Try and be peaceful, but ready for innovation where it comes along with the Mars-Uranus conjunction at the end of the week. Well, hello, Isa2, and anyone else who is listening. Thank you for sharing your chart, Isa2. So I'm now going to have a quick overview of your chart. And this is it here. And you can see if you look to the left here, this is Virgo. And that is your first house according to the birth time that you gave me, Isa2. So you can see that at the time you gave me, it was the sign that was coming up on the eastern horizon was Virgo at 24 degrees of Virgo. I am using Western tropical whole sign houses here and a Western tropical whole sign analysis. Okay, so that means, Isa2, I expect that you are wonderful about being practical in the world and giving service. Like, it's important to you to give service and in practical ways in the world, and you probably feel very strongly that giving service in the world and also keeping life in order, that might be quite a theme for you as well, that you're good at routines and you like having routines for health and exercise, and maybe a focus on good nutrition and different exercises for health. And it's not necessary that all of these will play out in your life, but I think giving service would be an important one. And your sun, so you can see just below that rising point is your sun. That's the big circle with the dot, and that's at 0 degrees 28 minutes of Libra, and it's placed in your second house. So let's first of all talk about the sun in Libra. The sun in Libra, I mean, and most people know about their sun sign because it's really much more common knowledge, of course, but I'll say it anyway. So the sun in Libra means that it's likely that you are quite charming and good at talking to people, and you like things to be just and fair, and people to be respectful and treat each other well. And Libra is good at talking and helping to make harmonious connections between people. The sun is in your second house, and you can see that inner circle with the house numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So the sun is in your second house, and that means you shine, as well as with the harmonious connecting of people and the need for fairness. And also, Libra can be quite artistic and really good at aesthetics. Okay, but there's quite a focus for you with second house matters of finances and resources and personal income. And you might have quite a lot of independence in your personal income. Mercury is there as well, and Mercury is actually the ruler of your ascendant. So Virgo, Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. So that is a double reason why there is a focus on your finances and your possessions and resources and wealth, and there even could be some career aspects to do with wealth or possessions and resources, something like that. And yeah, you could be good at it. But then, yeah, the added reason why I think you could be good at your personal finances and wealth and managing your finances could be a thing that comes to you easily is that you've got the South Node there that there is the South Node. Oh, I know you can't see that. That little hooky thing that's just near Mercury in that second house. That means you've had a lot of past life experience with finances and personal wealth and your own income and managing your income and resources and possessions, maybe even buying and selling resources and possessions. And so you're good at it. But in this lifetime, with that placement of the South Node, you're actually being asked to leave behind some of your focus on these. Okay, and to move to the other side of the chart, and you can see where Aries is on the top right hand side there. There is Aries, and the North Node is there. So you're being asked to move towards where Aries is, which is your 8th house. And that can be about not so much thinking about your income on a daily basis or your possessions and goods on the mundane daily level, but thinking more about your large amounts of money, your investments, your retirement savings, and this could even be about a partner's finances, but also it could be that you're being encouraged in some ways to let go of self reliance and to be more ready to share with a partner financially, whether that's a business partner or a life partner. Okay. All right, so let me see what I've written. What have I said? Okay, Virgo first house, comfortable with detail, giving service, organizing things into systems. You might do this in ways that are beautiful and aesthetic and have synergy and balance because your ascendant ruler is in Libra. The sun is in Libra, so you can be charming and care about fairness, and you also like things to be refined and respectful, not crude. And actually, yeah, another point is the sun is on the world axis, it's on 0 degrees of Libra, and that might mean that whatever you do in life, and especially to do with finances, possessions, and your personal income, you might want to get that out in the world, like share stuff with the world, like be a leader in some kind of way, because that's on the 0 degrees world axis. Let's have a look at your 10th house of career, because that is where the moon is placed. You've got the moon in Gemini. Gemini is your where your MC is, your 10th house, and that means that's your career. And it might be that your career involves communication and talking with people and learning and making connections and networks with people. And with your moon there's a lot of feeling about that. Like you might actually really enjoy it, and there possibly could be an influence from your mother there. But at the same time, there's a chironic wound because Chiron is there, and maybe you've had to overcome some kind of childhood wound or challenge to your feeling about your career. Perhaps it could have been an imposter syndrome that you've needed to overcome. All right. Did I mention could be an influence from your mother because of the moon being there as well? Okay. And then what else can I say? Done that. Relationships. So you've got Jupiter in your 7th house of relationships or a partner, and that might either mean that relationships are quite beneficial and lucky and expansive for you, or it could mean that you've got a kind of larger than life partner that people might notice the partner before they notice you. But Jupiter is exalted there, and this might relate to the North Node where your partner might have a lot of resources, whether they're financial or other, that they're willing to share with you if you have a partner or a business partner. That's possible. And in your 4th house of home and family, you have grown up with Uranus and Saturn there, and so there's some kind of perhaps your home life as a child was disrupted a lot, like dynamic and changing, maybe progressive and innovative, but maybe some shocking disruptions came as well. And Saturn there, perhaps there's kind of an authoritarian influence, like quite a lot of authority and maybe a little bit rigid in your home life, or very well structured. It could be in a good way, it could be like well structured. And the moon is opposite Saturn. So maybe you were feeling like the need to pull away from home and go to your career, and you felt like that was an escape from some of the troubles of home life. I don't know. I don't know. I hope that's working for you, Isa, too. We're just going to quickly look at the transits. You have got, in your career house, almost exactly on your moon, that Mars and Uranus conjunction that's just coming up at the end of the week. So maybe there's some big changes happening with your career that could be disruptive and challenging, okay? But possibly lead you to something that's more innovative and progressive, and in the end more authentic, and that might suit you better, but not necessarily easy. Jupiter has just finished going through your 11th house of your career gains, and maybe there's been some luck there with friendship groups and networks of people. And then Mercury is going to be retrograde in that area as well, so friendship groups having a review. What else did I want to say? That big Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we had in February, that's playing out over the next 36 years, that happens in your 8th house. And so that's going to be contributing to that North Node journey where your soul wants to move towards more intimacy, trust, and sharing of power with partnership. Okay? There's something there. Not always easy. It'll be a journey. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to say. This full moon is in your 5th house of fun and play and romance. It's a yearly check-in in that area, and you might need to look at bringing or review how structured you are in any of those areas, including with children, whether that's your own children or others' children. Okay, that's all I'm going to say, Isa, too. I hope it's helpful for you.